Hey everyone, Adam here, and we are beginning to read Fools, Liars, Cheaters, and Other Bible Heroes. The last week we just had the introduction, and we sort of explored what we thought might be in the book and some ideas on God's plan for our lives and how specific that plan gets, God's role in executing that plan in our life, and free will and how those go together, how our brokenness plays into it. Does God use us in spite of our brokenness, because of our brokenness? How does this, how does it all play out? And so now we've begun to read, and we read chapters 1 through 7, and now for this coming week we'll read 8 through 14, so 7 chapters at a time for the next, for 4 weeks, over the next 3 weeks. But we're looking at the first 7. We had a great discussion on Sunday morning, 9 a.m., if you can make it there these next coming weeks. But if you can't, hopefully you'll respond to in a comment below or sort of share your thoughts and ideas in some other way. But we had a great discussion. Charlotte led us in that discussion, and so a lot of what I'm wrestling with and thinking about even as we left that Sunday morning is based on her leadership and sort of like the things she pointed out. First, we look at Rebecca and Reuben, right? Both stories that challenge this hierarchy of sibling order, right? Here we have Esau, who's supposed to, as the oldest child, get the blessing of the father and be the leader of the family. And Rebecca and Jacob go about deceiving their father and manipulating the situation in order for Jacob to receive the blessing. Now, to me, I consider that brokenness, right? But here we have, it says in Scripture, and I did it because I didn't realize this. It never jumped out at me, right? That it says that God had a plan for Jacob to be the one who received the blessing. 2 nations are in your womb. I'm on page 3. And 2 people born of you shall be divided, and one shall be stronger than the other. The elder shall serve the younger. That's a huge statement in this context, right? Where the older got the honor, got the responsibility, got the blessing and the promise. God is saying the younger is going to. So, okay, interesting. And then we jump to the story of Reuben in chapter, is it just the next chapter? Maybe 3? But yeah, chapter 3, right? The oldest of Jacob's children, Israel's children. Remember, Jacob was renamed. And of the 12 children, the 12 tribes of Israel, right? And Reuben is supposed to have the honor, have the right, be the one who the promise is carried through. But Joseph, if you remember, right, gets beat up by his brothers, thrown into a pit, and sent off into slavery in Egypt, but rises up in there to become the second most powerful person to the Pharaoh. Like, what? But here again, this isn't by accident. It seems to be part of God's plan. And I really wrestle with suffering or deceit or this violence against Joseph being part of God's plan. But God gave Joseph dreams of him, or a star, or a ear of corn, and all the other nations, the other 11 brothers, bowing down to his star, to his ear of corn. And if God sent that, then to be interpreted as saying a promise to Joseph, you shall, be the leader. The promise shall be carried out through you. So I guess my question that I ask, and you can wrestle with, I've been wrestling with it, is if God understands the culture, the societal, the family norms of this context are the oldest one, then why doesn't God just stick with the oldest one? God must understand that by going with the lesser, the younger, there's going to be conflict. So does God create the conflict? God definitely challenges our understanding of what should be or how the world should work. But the way I sort of have reasoned it is, it's our rejection of this, of God's plan, of God's understanding. God saying, I'm going to use Jacob, and the family being like, no, right? Or Rebecca and Jacob being like, well, we can't trust God to do this, so we're going to make it happen ourselves. This being given to Joseph may be bragging, right? Being to his older brothers, I'm going to be greater than you, right? But the brothers, instead of being like, well, if that's what God revealed, if that's part of God's plan, we accept it, saying, no, we refuse to accept this, and we're going to beat you up and kill you. Okay, we won't kill you, we'll throw you into a pit. Oh, look, we'll sell you into slavery. Like, so it is our rejection of a new way, a different way, perhaps a divine way of thinking that causes the suffering rather than God causing the suffering or the injustice. But it definitely, God doesn't make things easier by deliberately, intentionally going against structures and systems we have in place, right? But the ways of God are mysterious and wondrous. So wrestle with that, right? I also thought it was really interesting. I didn't realize this about Reuben, not such a bad guy. He is the one who convinces his brothers not to kill him, but throw him into the pit. And it does say, so that he could come back later to save him. So whether that was a selfish intent or not, if I save my brother and present him to my father, then my father will love me, maybe not as much as Joseph, but just under, or if he truly had a good heart and was like, this is wrong, I'm going to do the right thing, right? Interesting to sort of explore. But that also takes us then to Rahab, right? And her intentions self-preservation. Here, Joshua's clan was going to come in and destroy the city by helping them. She has the promise of surviving. But helping the enemy is always risky, so I don't really know how that self-preservation plays. Rahab is chapter 5. But I really liked this, and Charlotte pointed this out in Rahab's story, right? In one sense, choosing God is always self-serving. Since he has our greatest good in mind, how could it be anything else? Right? I mean, trusting in God, choosing God, being aware of God's plan, and trying our best to live into God's plan is always going to turn out for the better. The moment we rely on ourselves or our human understanding, things are bound to go wrong, right? So it is kind of self-serving to fully rely on God. I like that. I like that understanding. And then finally, just take a quick look at Miriam, because I just have to offer a different perspective on Miriam. Barbara Hasbach writes, here Miriam and Aaron are talking against Moses. God comes in and is all like, no, don't talk about Moses. Moses is my guy. And doesn't punish them both. Punishes with leprosy Miriam. And then Moses and Aaron are like, no, God, don't punish her. We'll kick her out for 7 days. And then there will be justice. And Barbara in this says, well, maybe she just needed a harsher lesson on humility. It says Moses was the most humble, but clearly Miriam had pride. She wanted more credit for her role in this deliverance, and God needed to teach her a lesson. What lesson does God need to teach us? Perhaps, right? there needed to be justice, right? There was dissension. There was talking behind the back. There was right. I mean, in order for order to be kept, right, a leader must be followed, and Miriam and Aaron were challenging that. But maybe the punishment came on Miriam not because she was somehow worse than Aaron, but rather she was stronger than, right? God knowing she would be able to endure this consequence, right? The men threw her out instead of throwing Aaron out because they understood she could endure this. There are consequences for our action in this culture and society. Some sort of restoration and justice needed to be served for restoration. And God or Moses and Aaron understood Miriam could endure. That's a much different perspective than what Barbara offers in that chapter. And I think maybe as we look at what the role of women are in the Bible, thinking of Miriam as worse and therefore punished greater isn't the most constructive. So another point of view. Love to hear your thoughts on this. Please comment below, explore with us. I'll be back next week to look at the next couple of chapters. If in your reading you find something you'd like me to comment on, just share it down below and I'll add it into the video. Have a wonderful week. God bless.